In this video, let's look at how we can export our Flash projects so that they're exported in the Adobe Air format. And this is suitable for exporting to tablets, cell phones, or even the desktop. And it's a nice alternative to the standard Swift option. So to begin with then, I'm going to show you how to do this on the Windows platform. And I'm using the latest copy of Flash CC, but the process is actually the same if you're using CS5, CS6. So we have an example project here. This is a student project. This is errands, and we've got a series of scenes. And what's interesting about this project is that in addition to just standard animation, we've actually got some embedded video as well. So this is a great example to show you how to achieve the Adobe Air export with video as well. So if I just do a simple Control-Enter to test this movie, we can see this is what it looks like. So let's actually test this, and before I test the movie, I'm going to take a quick look at the properties for this video. Just double click it and go to Properties, and you'll note that this particular video is actually linked to an external file. If I click on this, you can see it's linked to sequence 1 here. So when we export this for Air, we have to make sure that we're exporting the video file as well, because it's not included in the original FLA file. Now, if I do a quick Control-Enter to test this, there's actually some audio playing here. We've got a narration playing, and also we've got the video playing down here with audio as well. So I'll close that down. And we're actually ready to export this now. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the publish settings for the file. So I'm going to go to File, Publish Settings. It brings up this dialog here. And by default, when you publish to just the Flash player, which just gives you a Swift file, which obviously needs the Flash player installed on that machine to be able to play that. The great thing about Adobe Air is that it's for desktop, you need the Air application to run it, but you can actually export suitable for mobile devices as well, which is great. So if we click on the target up here, we can actually select a few different options for Air, and this will vary depending on your machine and your operating system. In this case, I'm going to export Air 3.8 for desktop. And you might have a different version, but the important thing in this case is we're exporting for the desktop. So this is designed for playback on a computer. So I'll click on that. And then I'm going to look at the settings for this Air 3.8 for desktop. So I just click on the little wrench here. And you can see that by default, it gives you a .air file. Now, those are designed to be opened with the Air player, or the Air controller, if you like, that's previously installed on the operating system. Now, the great thing about the Air is that you can actually do an installer file. Now, I'm on a Windows machine, so it's going to say Windows Installer, and you see it gives me a .exe, which is great. Now, that means that I can just simply give this file to someone, and they can install my application on their machine. Now, when you're exporting for Air, you have to create what's known as a certificate, and that really is something that you obtain to prove that you are the developer and that you did in fact create this file. So what we're going to do is actually use a test certificate for this, and in order to create one of those, we're going to go to the signature option here, and you'll notice it asks you to browse for a certificate. I'm just going to simply click on the create button. I'm going to create my own certificate while I export this. So publisher name, I could just throw my name in there. Unfortunately, you have to fill in all these fields. So organization unit, we can just call this iBarista, and same for the name. Country we can leave there. You do need a password because you have to encrypt this certificate. So you can just type in a simple password. Be sure to write it down and remember it, because you're going to need that when you export your Air application. And then for Save As, just choose where you're going to save your certificate, which is saved in a P12 format. I'm going to save it into the same folder, click on Save, and then click on OK. And you can see that Adobe Flash has created the self-signed certificate. Click OK. So, what it's done then is it's filled in the certificate path with this certificate that you've just created, and then you just type in your password that you created just now, and I'm going to use the remember password for this session option, and that's essentially all you need for setting up your certificate. So we've actually set up the air settings now. You can see it's going to be exported to the exe file, installer package, complete with our certificate. Now this file, as I was saying earlier, is slightly different because it has some external video linked in. And if I look at the folder, you can see that that's this sequence 1 here, which is being linked in. Now what's really important is that under the air settings, you'll see down here included files. Currently only the SWF and the XML file are being included, so I'm going to click on the little plus symbol. I'm going to make sure to include the sequence 1 F4V. That's now going to be packaged in with the installer. If you don't do that, then that video will not be included in the final output. Then I'm just going to click on OK to save that. Now, in addition to the air publish settings, you want to make sure that you've set up the Flash publish settings correctly. This particular application has some audio exported with it. And by default, Flash is really going to heavily degrade the quality of your audio. You can see that audio stream and audio event here are set to very low quality settings. So I'm going to change both of these by clicking on them. I'll do MP3, and I'm going to increase the quality of my audio output. In fact, I'm just going to set it to max. And quality I'll set to best, and OK. I'll do the same thing for this. Max, best quality. You can change the compression type here if you want, but I'm going to leave it at MP3. Actually, I'm also going to deselect convert stereo to mono. It's kind of an outdated setting these days, which is designed to make your Flash files as small as possible. But for this example, we're just going to max that out. Any images that are very large are going to be converted into JPEGs, and you can see that quality is there. 80 is fine though for this. And you've also got some other options here that you can decide to change up depending on your own particular project. This hardware acceleration option is quite nice. You can decide to set it to none, which is just CPU, direct, or GPU. To play it safe, you can leave it at none. Let's try doing the level 2 GPU. That'll give us a little bit more hardware acceleration and actually use our video card when the user plays this back. So now we are ready to export this. So I'm simply going to click on the publish setting here. It's going to go ahead and publish this, save it out. And it says the Windows installer file has been created. Click OK. You can actually just OK that now to get rid of it. And let's look at what's been put on the desktop. So here's my demo folder. Actually, if I go into that, you can see that here. This is what's been created, this iBarista exe file. And it's not an application in its own right, it's a Windows installer. So it's only going to work on a Windows PC. And you'll notice the size here, it's 3.4 megs, which is a good indicator that, first of all, it's used quite nice settings, high quality settings for the audio that's included in there. But also you can tell that it's actually embedded this almost 2 meg file, this video file, into that exe. So I can now distribute this exe file to anyone I want, and they can simply double click on the exe file and then get the application install option. And so any user can install this. You can put it in program files, but just as a demonstration, I'm going to place this on my desktop. I'm going to install this to my desktop so we can see exactly how it installs. Click on select folder, click continue, and it straight away loads the application, and you can see that it's playing. I can hear the audio and I can see my video working here as well. Let's actually see what it did though. On my desktop it created 2 files, because that's where I installed the application to. It created a shortcut to the actual application, and it created a folder. And if I look inside the folder, you can see that all it's done is it's created this ibarista.exe. That's the main executable file, which in itself links to the Swift file, which in itself links to the video file. So everything's connected. So this ibarista.exe is the master application file. And if you run that, it runs the application. So this is a really nice way to export and publish your Flash files, and it makes them really easy to distribute. And so your users can simply install your application and they can run it directly on their desktop. And they're going to need to have the latest version of Adobe Air installed, but you should be able to get that just from the Adobe website, just by doing a Google for Adobe Air. So that's how we create a installable package for your Flash projects in Windows. Let's look at how we do it under the Mac operating system. So here we are on the Mac side, and I've got exactly the same project open. You can see the iBarista here, and if I test this, it works with this video as well, just like last time. So as before, we're going to go to the File, Publish Settings, and we'll look at how to set this up. It's really quite similar. I'm just going to select from the target Air 3.4 for desktop, and I'm going to make sure that I'm outputting this Swift to the correct location, which is actually going to be the iBarista folder, and set up the audio stream. Again, max those out, and audio event, just max those out, and change hardware acceleration to level 2 GPU. Then we can look at the target settings for Air, and we'll do the rest of the work in here. So we want to make sure again that we've got that sequence 01.f4v included. So I've been sure to just click on the little plus symbol, sequence 1 f4v, make sure that's included. And we want to select Mac installer, just like before. We selected Windows installer, this time we're doing the Mac installer. And make sure that that's being saved to the correct location, which is going to be on our desktop. And just like before, we need to set up that signature. So we'll click on the Signature tab and click on New to create a new signature. And again, we need to make sure we populate all the fields here. And decide where to save that P12 file. So I'll just save that again to my iBarista folder. And click OK. And you can see that it's created the self-signed certificate. Once we've done that, we're ready to publish. So I'm going to click on the little Publish button in the Air settings. And you can see it starts publishing that file. This is very dependent on the speed of your machine and the size of the project. There we go, it says the application has been successfully published. We'll click OK. And we'll look in the folder where we have that saved. And you can see that it's given this ibarista.dmg file, which is basically the equivalent, the Mac equivalent of a Windows installer file. If we just double click on that, it's actually a disk image file. And you can see that we have the option to install iBarista, so we just click on the little installer file. And just like on the Windows side, we get the Adobe Air installation options here. And I could do exactly the same thing. I can choose where I want to install the application just by clicking on the little folder. And I'm going to throw this on my desktop, just because it's only a temporary thing. Click Open, and then Continue. And then by default, it's going to open up that project. And you can see it's loaded there. We've got the video working as well. And that's been installed onto our desktop. So there we go, 2 options for exporting Adobe Air, which is compatible for both Windows desktop environments and Mac desktop environments. Thanks for watching.